Hello and welcome to another episode of Mike and Dave's Hi-Fi Riff. I'm Mike Evans.
And I'm David Price.
And again we are joined by the really rather lovely Tim Jarman. Tim, welcome back.
It's great to be back.
You've come back for more.
I have. I loved it so much the first time.
And the fact that we've let all the air out of your tyres so you can't go anywhere has probably got something to do with it
that
as well.
So.
Yeah.
Excellent. No, we're really thrilled to have you back. The last riff we did was an amazing Technic CD player.
That's right.
Which was seriously cool, which we all loved. And I'm going to ask the question, what joyful goodies have you brought with you for this week?
Well, I'm very much back on home ground here with the Bang & Olufsen Beogram 4000 turntable.
Look at this.
David's just heaving into view there.
David's got
I thought it was going to be light.
There we are. Yes.
Short straw again.
That's right. Everyone loves a slim Danish model, and here is one.
Excellent. Now, the reason why you say you're on home ground is because you've written the book, literally, haven't you?
I have. Years and years ago, my brother and I did a website called Beo Central, which just listed and detailed everything B&O had made.
Still going.
It is still going. So, well, it's been there so long that it's one of the oldest sites still on the internet in its original form, put up by well-meaning amateurs. So it's been going for a very long time.
So basically, if you want to know anything about Bang & Olufsen, that's a really great place to go to.
And tell me about your book.
Yes, so from the website, we were contacted by a publisher and said, "Can you turn this into a book?" And so we went away and did that. And I think that's still on Amazon now. That's still selling now. So we were the first to write the company history in English rather than in Danish. And
at the risk of sounding like a bit of a sado, it is still on Amazon because I was going to order a copy and try and get it in time for you to actually sign it for me. So we're going to have to put that off for another day, but it would be a great thing to have.
Writing that did introduce me to the concept of the book signing. There's a picture of me with an enormous towering pile of these B&O books, and I think at one stage the ones that weren't signed were the rare ones.
That's absolutely brilliant. And was there much of a demand for B&O books?
Well, I think it came out around the same time as Gordon Brown's book, just after he was resigned from being Prime Minister, and I think we confidently outsold that.
That's excellent.
and it was.
You never ended up in the bargain bin in WS.
No, I don't think so. Never been pulped. And
that's brilliant.
I think it was the fastest selling book in that section of Amazon. So
that's cool.
Not for long, but for a few minutes, we held the top spot, which was quite a thing.
Super impressive. Well, I'm going to have to do a bit of full disclosure here. I would say that B&O are probably the hi-fi brand I know the least about. And the irony is you're probably the leading expert in the world on them. So you bought this in, and I've got to say, I'm a bit of a convert all of a sudden. I didn't look. I'm sorry, and I'm going to be blasphemous here. I didn't expect it to be so brilliant.
Well, yes. People don't. The hi-fi press never took to these. It was B&O is a weird thing. It exists outside normal hi-fi culture. So hi-fi is for people who like hi-fi, and B&O is just for people who really like to listen to music at home, didn't want any fuss. So they wanted the best possible quality, but also easy to set up and easy to use. And B&O really mastered that market. So these were initially sold not in hi-fi shops, but in music shops. So they'd have pianos at the front and B&O at the back. It's how they started.
So are you telling me, Tim, that people actually want to listen to music without any fuss?
I know it takes.
Speaking as a hi-fi journalist for 30 years, I find that quite hard to understand.
Well,
it's brilliant.
So this is the exact opposite of the normal idea. So it's funny, but for years the hi-fi press have told us that the best turntable is one where the people who made the motor part and the arm and the cartridge never met and ideally live in separate countries. Whereas this was all designed in the same building. The cartridge is B&O's own. Everything about this is designed and made by B&O. They aren't part of Philips, as the legend often goes. And so the man who designed the cartridge probably sat next to the man who designed the arm, who was the room next door to the one who did the motor and the plinth. And so it was all designed to work together as one harmonious whole. That's why it doesn't have a head shell. The cartridge is just an extension tip to the tone arm there.
Amazing.
So the downside is you can only use B&O cartridges, but luckily they're really good, so that doesn't matter. This is a moving iron cartridge in here, and this was one of the first on the market where when the stylus broke you had to replace the whole cartridge. Of course, we're used to that with moving coils now, but this was a new idea. And to break that concept in, B&O dealers said, if you break the needle, if you bring the broken one back, we'll sell you another cartridge for half price.
Wow.
So it just got people used to the idea of the non-replaceable stylus.
They are great sounding cartridges, the B&Os, though, of this era, aren't they?
Absolutely.
So, I think going back to the hi-fi press and the hi-fi journalists of this time particularly, they looked at, or a bit down their nose at B&O as being a bit of a lifestyle product, and not necessarily a proper hi-fi product. But you listen to that turntable for more than 30 seconds and you know that's not the truth. It's a stunning bit of kit. And you were explaining very graciously to my Luddite brain sort of some of the subtleties in this, and how this linear tracking, which it has, is the correct way to play records.
Yes, that's right. Well, every record that you own is cut on a lathe, which follows that geometry, follows a straight line exactly as this does to the middle. And as we know, the best way to replay a recording is to undo exactly the way it was as recorded. But the difficulty is that's very complicated.
Like a Haynes manual, isn't
exactly.
it? It's like reassembly is the reverse of whatever it was.
Which was the hardest thing in the world to do, wasn't it?
Indeed.
And so it's like it's easier to read a book that was written in your own language rather than one that's in a totally different one, because you're just undoing the process.
That's a really good analogy, actually. And you were saying this is spot on, right in the centre of the spindle.
That's right. The tracking angle in this is measured in fractions of a degree, whereas in a conventional turntable, it's numbers of degrees, and you have to set your cartridge in a compromised position to give a reasonably balanced performance across the record.
And as a result, obviously, there's no queuing device. You've got to use your trackpad here, haven't you?
That's right. So underneath here, this is one of the first applications of digital integrated circuits and logic in any European consumer products. This was 1973, remember, when most turntables, automatics, just had greasy levers and big cogs underneath, and this is all done by absolute state-of-the-art digital circuits which were intended for industry, made by Siemens in Germany. And that controls a DC servo motor under here, which moves the arm on a sled drive across here. And the tracking error is measured optically in the base of the arm, so unlike the conventional turntable, the groove doesn't pull the stylus along. It's pulled on by the motor underneath.
Amazing.
And all this was new. There isn't a B&O a bit like this before. The B&Os before this were quite conventional. They've been gradually refining a design which started in the late 50s when stereo records came out. Mm-hmm. And they did pretty good by that stage, but they realised that within B&O that the way to improve the quality further was to make the arm even longer to reduce the tracking error. And that was not desirable in many ways, resonances and making the machine bulky and fragile. And so they instead went for this very short, stumpy arm. And one of the B&O's designers at the time was very opposed to this. And they said, well, no one will buy that. It's only got a little willy because the arm is so short and stumpy. But this was the design they went forward with. And tangential machines were in B&O's range right up until they stopped making turntables at the end of the 90s. So this was the one that set them in motion for that.
And David, what was your argument for having a little willy? I think it was something to do with rigidity, wasn't it? You were saying earlier.
Right. I sort of took that the wrong way for a moment there.
I can't imagine why.
I think, we're going to get shut down on YouTube if we go any further.
But short and strong, I think, was the...
Okay, all right, matron.
and am I allowed to ask about the second protrusion as well?
So this second arm here contains a light sensor. It shines a beam down onto the record, and what it's looking for is these ribs on the platter here. And when it can't see the ribs anymore, then it knows that there's a record there instead, and then the logic inside allows the arm to cue down. So this is a very sensitive, very delicate cartridge, but it can be handled by anyone, because all you have to do is put the record on and press this. You never have to touch that. When it's working properly, no harm can come to that. Unfortunately, when they get a bit old and the belts get baggy, it takes a while for the motor to spin up this very heavy platter, and so the sensor comes across, and this is barely moving, so it says, okay, there's the record, drops the arm down, and then wrecks the stylus immediately. Yes. Yeah. So you have to keep on top of... Yes, but that happened typically when they were about 30 years old, so it didn't really matter that much from B&O's point of view.
And it's sprung as well, isn't it?
Yes, it has a floating sub-chassis here. inside here there are arches.
Do you want to take the top?
Yes,
off?
I can.
Is
The best things are only really appreciated when you take them to pieces. So what one does, oops,
Oh my God.
oh, it's still plugged in.
We're going to
turn
die.
the power off.
That's okay.
Yeah,
So I'll
we
take-
could have our first YouTube fatality
Take
here.
that away.
Okay, sorry about that on the microphone.
There we
We're all
are.
good.
Sorry. There we are. Let me just do that. Take
Again,
the
apologies.
platter off as well.
My gosh,
There we go. You can see it.
look at that.
It's unbelievably complicated.
Oops, yeah.
But-
It's just crazy. You just destroyed your arm with the platter.
no, it's-
Another injury. You injured yourself with the Technics
Okay.
last time, and now the B&O this time.
So in here, this is the electronic servo for the motor here, which is an AC motor, but the signal that runs it is generated internally, so a bit like one does for high-end turntables now. Under here is
So
the
frequency generator.
that's right, yes,
not
that's,
using the mains.
that's right. It's not mains locked; it's all internal. Under here is the electronic logic that runs the arm. Here's the tracking servo motor here. This is a pneumatic piston that regulates the cueing, so rather than banging down air going in through a tiny hole here, regulates that. This is the power section of it up in this corner here. You can see if I do this. This is the casting for
Wow.
the sprung substrate. You can also see underneath the tray it's built in is another enormous
And it's-
ally casting.
It's on piano wire, isn't
That's right. Yes, these arched spring steel strips and then tiny bits of piano wire hang it. So it's hung here, here, and here. So the only thing joining this to the outside world is 3 strands of tiny wire in the corners here.
This is totally the opposite to your Citroen engine, isn't it? Like-
They're all beautifully engineered, exotic materials.
it? So, Mike, would you
It's
like
so
to?
complicated.
Would you like to pull it off?
It's
Oh,
going to
here
be. We're definitely going to get barred.
There we are.
Look at that,
So
beautiful.
there's
Yeah,
the main bearing there,
So really-
oversized in here, and with the facility to level and
Yeah.
adjust it in all directions for absolute
That's
accuracy.
kind of LP12 size, isn't
It's
it?
amazing. Yes, yeah.
It is, and after all these years, after 50 years of use, you still have to push that to get the oil in there.
Wow. So, David, you were saying that this was famously more expensive than the.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously we're not comparing like with like because the LP12 sold as a motor unit, but for the first, the first advert I ever saw for an LP12 in a Hi-Fi mag was like £46 or something.
Really?
So it's
Wow.
about 73, 74,
Okay.
something like that.
Okay.
Obviously, it went up a lot, and you've got to remember in the 70s we had massive inflation as well. So,
Yes. Yeah.
prices were going up anyway. But this was £200 at the same
That's
time.
right.
wasn't
Wow.
it?
So you could buy 4 LP12s. One of those.
Almost, yeah.
And probably or 5 Garrard 401s, which
Yes,
weren't very expensive either in those days.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
But I mean, look what's inside it. It's an amazing piece of engineering, isn't it?
It's-
And especially all
yeah.
this logic stuff for that year. I mean, that is just phenomenal, isn't it?
Well, that's right. And B&O had no background in that at all, so all these technologies had to be learned by the company from scratch to make this work.
Amazing.
So B&O had started a bit behind. They got into serious hi-fi in the late 60s with a system called the Beogram 5000, which, if anyone wants to know about, I'm sure I can come back and talk about that for hours and hours and hours. But that was designed to work originally with open reel tapes. In America, they'd been doing work with open reel tapes, very good quality, and B&O said, right, that's the medium. When they came back to Europe, of course, there weren't any, and so hastily they had to organise turntables for that, and they bought Thorin's TD124s and then something called an acoustical and various other things. So they were behind with record players for that system. And you can see what's obviously happened is they panicked and then gone completely overboard. Said, right, we didn't have a record player, now we're going to make the best record player in the world, and here it is. And so, these go very well with those old Beolabs, and a lot of them were bought to go with them. The other place a lot of these went is immediately into art collections. So the New York Museum of Modern
Yes, I
Art
bet.
bought this when it came out from News, instant design classic, as did many others. You can't pick up a coffee table book of design without this being in there. It's just alongside the Barcelona chairs and this and that. There's the dear old Beogram 4000.
Fantastic. It's an amazing bit of kit. But I think the thing which probably impressed me as much as anything was how good it sounded.
Yeah.
It really is a
Put it
marvellous
back
piece of
together
kit.
again.
Oh, well, I'll just put it on the table there, and I'll it's
No, really.
like many things. It's easy to take apart, but really hard to put back together. Don't try this at home if you've got one of these.
Especially when it's plugged in.
Really heavy as well.
Sorry about that.
This particular one cost me £30 in the late 90s when no one wanted turntables anymore.
Wow,
Needless to say, they cost a bit more than that now.
Yes, I can imagine. But it sounded great. It sounded really, really good.
Yeah.
Amazingly detailed. I couldn't believe how much bottom end was coming out of it. You know, proper tight bass.
Well, we've got some records here that we were playing.
We played this through your NS1000s.
We did.
And it just worked a treat. It worked an absolute treat. We also played some rather sort of choice music, didn't we? So there we go.
Pop music.
Pop music from 1978,
Yeah.
79.
So this sounded astonishingly good. Really, really good.
Yeah.
Just, you know, was so propulsive, detailed, etc.
There's another one.
So that's
bit of drum and bass.
Reese, you played some of that. Yes. Yeah.
And that's really got really powerful bass.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing to me was that the deck was rock solid. It's got really good speed stability, hasn't it?
Yeah.
And it's got that really lovely combination of excellent speed stability, especially for a 1973 turntable. It's fantastic.
In the pre-direct drive era,
absolutely. And that's, I'm sure, in no small part down to the quite heavy platter and the frequency generated, regulated motor, isn't it? But yeah, it's got really strong kind of speed stability, and the sound that comes from the really well executed parallel tracking tone arm. It just sits in the groove. It doesn't feel like it's nervous. It just sounds really solid and planted, doesn't it?
And just stunningly good.
Yeah, and it's quite, dare I say it, master tape-like in that respect, isn't it?
Look, B&O have got a funny sound around that time. They've got this sort of androgynous sound that they don't sound like the sources that they are. They just sound like B&Os.
Yeah.
So people have asked me what vintage turntable should I buy, and along with Technics and all the usual nice ones. Why don't you try one of the big B&Os, like a 4000 or an 8000? And I'd like to hear that and get it out. It's very nice, but it doesn't sound like vinyl.
Yeah.
And as if that's a bad thing, because it doesn't have all the clicks and pops and tracking distortion and everything. It just sounds like whatever the music was.
That's really true. There's hardly any surface noise, isn't there, when you play these?
That's a very high polish on the diamond. Of course, they made their own, and it's made to a very high standard.
Played my charity shop special here.
Oh gosh, what have we got?
We played it on another riff a while back.
Oh yeah, see you, Depeche Mode.
So it's got a few fingerprints on this, and it was very dusty, but still, it was very secure, wasn't it? Very clean, and you're far less irritated by the kind of little groove noise, just kind of general.
There's no fizziness, is there?
No fizziness, yeah.
Is this a riff top tip? It means that if you buy the B&O, then you can buy charity shop records.
Well, expensive turntable, cheap records, so you save in the end.
Save in the long run.
Good combination.
Yeah, excellent.
So.
And interestingly, the last record which we played was from Duke by Genesis. Turn It On Again. There we go. Now, do you know what year this is? Any idea?
80?
Is it? So
I think it's 80.
So it's only a couple of years out from M Pop Music, and it's also Japanese import. This sounded rubbish compared to pop music, didn't it? Genesis was one of the biggest bands in the world at the time, and they just couldn't produce an album, and it just sounds absolutely dire. But even the B&O had a good fist at it, didn't it?
It had a go.
Crack, yeah. But this was. But it should have showed.
It
for me, it showed up the disappointment in the album, really.
So albums like Wind and Wuthering and Trick of the Tail, just like 5 years earlier, sounded way better than that one.
Yeah,
God only knows why, but
God only knows.
There we go.
No, quite. But look, what an amazing piece of equipment! Absolutely fantastic, and I'm so pleased. Also, you took it to pieces, because I had no idea it was so complex inside. It really is a feat of engineering.
Well, you're getting your money. I mean, it's 200 quid in 1972 or whatever, 73.
Yes.
It's an awful lot of. A lot of money, but it's an awful lot of stuff.
It really is, yes. Yeah, absolutely.
So it's not like a box of air, is it?
And presumably the big problem now is if you wanted to buy a used one, an eBay one, is getting cartridges.
It was a problem. You can get them from Soundsmith in the United States now, who are licensed by B&O to make them.
Okay.
But I do wonder why some enterprising Chinese manufacturer hasn't done. They can make a Rolex that looks like a real one, so you think they could make a B&O cartridge, wouldn't you?
Yeah, sure.
But so far they haven't. The other trouble is they're very complicated machines, and there's a lot to go wrong in there. So you give that to the kind of person that normally repairs turntables, are used to, topping up the oil in the centre bearing of a Garrard 301. They take one look in there and go,
no,
or worse.
Sure.
They have a look and then can't fix it, rip it to pieces and change all the capacitors and then find there 10 times more problems than there were before.
Yes.
So they're one of those things. It's difficult to find someone that knows turntables and electronics and B&O, which is the downside. So recently B&O have reissued this themselves, or they said they had, but they picked the later 4002 model, which looks the same on the outside, but it's much simpler inside. So one of my favourite things about the 4002 is they took out the computer logic and they replaced it with a strip of plastic with lines drawn on it with a bulb shining through, which it turns out does more or less the same thing, and I bet they kicked themselves for that. But the 4002 sounds the same, it looks much the same, but it's very much easier to deal with. So unless you really want the real thing, the original one, that's the one I'd recommend going for.
Is the general quality of build the same?
All the castings are identical.
Yeah.
So the original 4002s had the same complicated AC motor, but the later ones used a DC motor from Technics of all people, which works really, really well in that that application, and it made it simpler again. They just got better and better and better.
So what model is that?
That's the 4002.
Right.
That also sold as the 4004, which is the same but has a remote control with a particular B&O receiver, and as the 6000, which was the quadraphonic one for full 70s. So lots of choice there.
Well, I think this is. I mean, I think it's an actually, because we were talking about the SP10, weren't we? Sorry, SL10.
Everyone does that.
Yeah, and why not? Because it's a really special turntable, but so many people miss this, don't
yes, they really do,
and
including me.
This is a very special deck, and it's a kind of a Citroen CX of turntables, as you called it.
It is, or the DS, because everything was new.
Yeah.
They started from nothing. No one saw this coming.
Yeah.
There weren't things saying, B&O are doing a brilliant turntable next year.
Yeah.
No, it's just bang, it was there, and suddenly it's all different.
Utter game changer, wasn't it?
Absolutely.
For B&O and for the turntable industry, as it were. But most people in the hi-fi industry didn't really notice because it's too easy to use, wasn't it?
There we are.
And also looked really nice as well, which is a total. That's a total loser. You're onto a big loser if it looks nice.
What looks nice can't sound nice, as they always say.
There we are.
There we are. Rules of physics, I believe.
On that bombshell.
That bombshell. Yeah.
Guys, look, Tim, thank you so much again for coming and joining us. It's so nice having you here and being so knowledgeable about this. It's just brilliant. And on behalf of David and I here, thank you very much indeed. And thanks to everybody for taking the time out to watch this as well. And we'll look forward very much to seeing you at the next episode of Mike and Dave's Hi-Fi Riff. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, cool. Right, are we sitting comfortably? Sorry. Well, if I've said a joke and someone laughs at it, I've got to say it again.
Was that a joke?
Worked the first time.
Okay.
Excellent.